Hi and welcome to today's video. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about sleep training and how it's been for Alex and me to try to sleep train Adeline because now she is almost 5 months old and we've been sleep training since she was 3.5. Yeah, so sleep training is just kind of when you teach your baby how to fall asleep on their own so that they can self-soothe during the night so that they're not constantly waking up and needing rocked back to sleep or nursed back to sleep or any of that. And it's something that some people agree with, some people don't agree with, but a lot of people recommend waiting till 6 months because that's when the baby is developmentally ready, but then other people recommend starting as early as 8 weeks. So it's kind of up to the parent and what they believe. Alex and I were definitely hesitant to start right away because a lot of sleep training involves crying, and I've heard that babies, like some theories out there say that letting your baby cry until they stop crying is like them thinking that you're never gonna come get them, and then they just feel like they've just been left alone, so that's why they just kind of give up crying. So that was why I was hesitant to try it. But then I heard someone say instead that sleep training it's actually a help, and there would be less crying in the long run if you sleep train your baby because they are given the tool of being able to fall asleep on their own, and it's actually a disservice to go in and help them fall asleep every single time. And a lot of people find that if they don't sleep train, then they have, a 2-year-old, and the 2-year-old has never fallen asleep on their own, so then they still can't, and then it's just a lot harder to do as babies get older, and it's a lot easier when they're younger and are still trying to figure things out and decide how the world works. So Alex and I decided to start at 3.5 months because we thought that Adeline was ready, and we were definitely ready because she was really tough as a newborn. She was up every 2 to 3 hours through the night up until we started sleep training, and a lot of times she was even up every hour and a half. And she was sleeping in a bassinet on the side of my bed, and at the time of sleep training we decided to move her into her own room. We decided to take away the pacifier, we decided to stop swaddling her, and we decided to not let her be nursed to sleep because up until that point Alex and I realized that we had been essentially not letting her cry for more than a minute at a time, and because of that, a lot of the times that when she would fall asleep, it was because she was nursing and she fell asleep while she was nursing, and I put her down and she'd fall asleep. So yeah, sleep training is good for times like that because as Dr. Ferber put it, he said, imagine you have a pillow and you're falling asleep with a pillow, and then as soon as you fall asleep, someone yanks that pillow out from underneath you, and then you wake up an hour later and there's no pillow. Of course you're gonna be upset. That's kind of how it is when you nurse a baby to sleep. They fall asleep nursing and you put them down and they're not nursing anymore, and they get upset when they realize that. If you learn how to put your own pillow back or self-soothe some other way, then you'll be able to keep sleeping, and that's kind of how he put it. And Dr. Ferber is the guy who came up with the Ferber method. He's a pediatrician and works in a ton of sleep areas of medicine. But we ended up doing Dr. Ferber's method as sleep training. It's kind of a modified cry it out version where you go in at increasingly long intervals of time to check on your baby, which made me feel good because I was worried that what if she's in a wet diaper, or she spit up all over herself, or if she's cold, things like that. So with Dr. Ferber's method, the first night is a lot less cry it out, and you go in after 1 minute, then after 3 minutes, and after 5 minutes, and 5 and 5 and 5 until she falls asleep. We did a modified version of that. We didn't really follow his strict guidelines on timing. We didn't set a timer. We just ended up doing it kind of just longer and longer intervals, and we capped the first night at 5 minutes, and then the following nights we just kind of did whatever we felt comfortable with. And the longest we've ever gone with letting her cry is 20 minutes, even up to now. But back then when we were starting, I think the longest we did was 10 minutes. But yeah, we started at 3.5 months old, and the first couple nights were pretty rough, but then after that she got the hang of it pretty quickly. It was 2 or 3 nights of slowly getting better, and then a bad night on the 4th or 5th night, and then after that she was much better. And we're still giving her feeds throughout the night because she is a pretty small baby. When she was born, she was like the first percentile of weight, so she's definitely small. So we're not cutting out her night feeds because she was like eating 4 or 5 times a night before we started sleep training. So this way we're trying to cut it back down to 2 night feeds right now, and I will just kind of see how her weight is at her 6-month appointment to see, because I was waiting to see her 4-month appointment. She was still in the 6th percentile for weight, so I'm not quite ready to cut them out to 1 or 0. And she doesn't seem ready either because she still wakes up twice a night and like cries like crazy until she's fed. So I figure that's her way of telling me that she really does need food. This is a question I had, was how do you know, when do you stop, when do you like say, okay, good, if your baby's not sleeping through the night? Obviously, if your baby's sleeping from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., you can be like, cool, we're good, we figured it out. But she has not gotten to that point, and it's been a month and a half. So I was like, well, when do you decide when you're done? The time that you decide you're done is when they are able to fall asleep on their own without any kind of pacifier or nursing or swaddle or rocking or anything like that. And they stay asleep for a long period of time, like multiple sleep cycles, which are about, I think they're 90 minutes in babies. So if they can sleep for like 4 or 5 or even 6 hours straight, then you know that they're sleep trained. And if they're doing naps and going down for naps and going down all the time without any kind of issue or crying or anything like that. So Addie is definitely at that point, but she still wakes up about 2 times a night, usually between 11 and 2, and then again once between like 4 and 6. So I'm good with that. I can deal with 2 wake ups at night, and especially since she just nurses really quickly and then goes back to sleep. So that's kind of where we are now. And it's taken us about a month and a half to get there, but that's because we've had a couple of times of inconsistency, which definitely hurts your progress. But we started sleep training, and then a week later I actually went and stayed with my parents for a week. So Alex wasn't there, and I was staying in a new room, and I was there with my parents, and I had no real support during the middle of the night to help her. So I caved a lot more. I gave her the pacifier, and I just kind of wasn't as strict because I couldn't handle it. And then and I got back, and Alex and I were determined to keep sleep training and be a little bit more strict. And then she was getting a lot better again. And then my grandpa ended up getting diagnosed with brain cancer. So we dropped everything and flew out to Ohio about a week after we started sleep training again. And so we were gone again for a week, and this time it was even worse because we were in a house full of my relatives. Everyone wanted to hold her. She slept in someone's arms every single nap she was there, and we were staying in a cold, damp basement, so she hated being down there. She was in a pack and play instead of her crib. We had a different sound machine. All of these like random things were different, so she did not sleep very well while we were there, and probably not very much either. She was definitely up a lot more while we were there. So she regressed the most then. So when we got back to Colorado, she was not great for like, oh, it was like a week and 2 or 3 days. It was a long time, but she would wake up multiple times a night and cried her head off, and she was just like not having it. And Alex and I were determined. We were like, you can do this, we know you can, you've gotten there before. And she just wanted to nurse constantly. So oh, and naps were the worst. That was something. She's always been okay at naps, but then when we got back from Ohio, after being held for every single nap, she was just the absolute worst. She would, every time I'd put her down in her crib, she would like scream bloody murder, and then I'd pick her up and she'd be fine. And so like nothing was wrong with her. Like I knew nothing was wrong, but I think that she also got developmentally more advanced while we were gone. And so now she like has this new like high-pitched crazy cry that she uses, and I think that she just uses it when she knows she's not getting her way. And so that was like the cry she was using, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've never heard this cry before. Like it's not your hungry cry, it's not your tired cry, but I think it was just her like, I hate this cry. So yeah, that was a little bit rough, especially the first 2 days we were back. She cried a lot for naps, but then she got over that, and now it's been about 2 weeks since we've gotten back from Ohio, and she is great at naps again. I've just read her a little story, change her diaper, put her in her sleep sack, put the white noise machine on, put her in her crib. Sometimes she'll fuss for maybe like 20 or 30 seconds, and then she'll be out. And every once in a while we do have a nap where either she's, I guess, not tired or hungry or something, but she like kind of fights the nap, and then I cave, and we've been giving her the pacifier after like 10 minutes because we're like, you need to nap, whatever. But that's where we've kind of just been flexible with it, because I do consider her sleep trained because she can go to sleep most naps, like 90% of naps, and every single night she goes to sleep super well without the pacifier. We don't use the pacifier at all during the night, and we only wake up twice to nurse her, so she's doing pretty well overall, I'd say. And we'll see what she has gained weight-wise at her 6-month appointment and reevaluate. And I actually have a lactation appointment tomorrow also, just to kind of like see if she's really that hungry, because I just feel so bad taking away night feeds if she's like really waking up because she's hungry. And you know, if she knows how to fall asleep on her own, if she's sleeping 4 or 5 or 6 hours on her own, she must be waking up because something's wrong. And usually I think that's just because she's hungry. And I figure at 6 months is when we start introducing solid foods, which will be super exciting, but she'll have more of a full tummy then, so maybe that'll help her sleep through the night. That's what I'm hoping, fingers crossed. Anyway, that's my story and how we have been sleep training our baby. I hope this helps someone just hear what it's been like, because I definitely was trying to find people's stories, especially people who didn't just have like a magical sleep training story where they were like sleeping through the night after 3 nights, because that was definitely not me. We definitely had hiccups. Well, I hope that you all have a great night, and I'll see you next time. Bye.